ready. And before we invite you to ask your first question, we wish to do something we often do at the start of these recordings and share with you Maida's internal process of connecting in with us in order to allow us to come through. She mentioned to you that it was funny that her neighbour has decided to chop down a tree with a chainsaw at the exact time that you have both scheduled for this recording. And she found it a little hard to connect in with us the way she normally does because of that sound. The reason we are mentioning this is because we have talked before about how Maida used to feel that she needed to control things in her environment in order for things to go well for her. And as the growth and development that she has been undergoing, particularly in relation to the work she's been doing, creating and distributing this podcast and listening to it herself, she has been getting much more relaxed around the idea of flow and allowing. And if there is some dog barking in the background, then so be it. So she had a moment inside of herself where she was surprised that she was having difficulty connecting in with us because she wasn't feeling inside of herself any intensity or tension around the quality of the recording. But Maida is quite sensitive to sound. It is something that impacts her quite profoundly. So she was quite delighted to discover that the reason she was having difficulty connecting wasn't because she was stressed or worried about the outcome of this endeavour, but because the actual sound itself was distracting her. So she took a moment to acknowledge that within herself, to celebrate herself for her ability to relax into flow, and then was able to connect more deeply and allow us to come through in the way that we are coming through now. Maida does enjoy that we share her inner process with you regularly. She used to sometimes listen to Abraham Hicks and hear Abraham speaking about the inner experience of Esther and wondered how Esther felt about it. And she is delighted that we choose to share this stuff with you because she also wants to share her own authentic, natural, raw experience of what it is like to have this information flow through her, but also to try and be human and energetic at the same time, which is the journey that all of you conscious and what some of you may consider unconscious friends are doing. Let's play.
As you know, here on Earth, we've been going through a pandemic and a very challenging 2-year period and ongoing. And I've felt like the lowest, most hopeless and despondent that I've felt in a long time. And I want to continue along my spiritual journey, and I want to be part of the spiritual community. I want to fulfill my karma, what I've come here to do and experience. And I'm just challenged to find my feet after everything I've gone through. And I'd like to know, what's the best way to navigate the energy of these times? How do I remain hopeful and optimistic about not just my own future, but about everyone's?
There is a connection between what we were saying previously and the answer to the question that you have just asked. One of the things that Maida is really passionate about is sharing not just the ups of her experience as she moves through all this work, but also the downs. There is an episode that will be released soon where Maida shares her own experience of feeling hopeless, her own experience of, as she calls it, her wanting to stick her finger up at spirituality, her desire to just have all of the pushing that is aiming for her to grow to stop. She was angry, she was rebellious, she was in a place of despondency. And in the midst of that, she was inspired to record herself speaking about that experience because she feels, and we support this, that there is a major misunderstanding in a lot of the spiritual work that is happening presently that goes something along the lines of, I must be positive, I must be hopeful. The truest truth is that ultimately there are many parts and aspects of you that have hope and that are positive. But the deeper truth than that is that there are also parts and aspects of you that feel the opposite. And so the movement towards wholeness isn't to ignore the parts of you that feel hopeless. It is to turn to them and to love them. The parts of you that feel negative also are there asking for your support so that you will love and hold and integrate them so that you can then ultimately move forward to what you feel is calling you, which is to be of expansion, to be of upliftment, to be of service in a way. So when you say, what is the best way to handle the energetics of now? We will tell you not just the most efficient way to handle the energetics of now, but all the energetics that will come in the future. The best way is to tune in to you. There is a lot of noise. There are a lot of opinions. There are a lot of ideas. There are many paradigms that are floating around you right now. And it is easy to become overwhelmed by them, particularly when they appear to have a level of conflict amongst them. You, dear one, are the truth barometer that you are looking for. It is just that there are ways that you do not yet trust your own knowing enough so that you can use it to discern what works for you and what doesn't. And so our answer to this, the same as our answer to everything, is turn inward. Turn inward and connect into you, and you will find that there are times that what you need to do is actually to stop being positive, to stop being hopeful, not so that you live from that place forevermore, but so that you be honest and authentic and real in your own experience. It is when those aspects, those energetics are coming up for your awareness and you deem them wrong and decide that you need to be positive and you need to be hopeful and you try and build that within you, that you create a situation unbeknownst to you that keeps you feeling kind of stuck, like it's difficult to move, that all your effort is pointless, and it makes you want to feel like you want to give up. And the reason it makes you want to feel like you want to give up is because sometimes when you're at a point where you're on your knees and you throw your hands up in the air and say, I give up, you release the resistance. Right now, many of you are aiming to release resistance by expanding your hope and expanding your positivity. But what is happening there is that you are resisting inside of yourself, aspects of yourself. And dear one, please know that you are not alone in this. This is a pandemic on your planet. And it is something that is becoming much more known and understood. And so ultimately, there is much reason to hope. The process that you're all undergoing right now is very much one of bringing up to the surface the things that have been at the bottom of your energetic fields for a very long time, slowly making their way up. More fast and more slow for certain people, but making their way up they have been. And they are coming to the surface now, and that, dear one, can be uncomfortable. But the more that you allow yourself to flow with the energetics of you in each moment, whether they be of hope or whether they be of hopelessness, the more you will learn to hear the language of your inner world and to support yourself and to uplift yourself so that you are not attempting to superimpose the positivity over the top of the negativity that you really feel, but rather you are hearing the aspects of you that have got something to contribute and that also need some assistance, need some consciousness, need some acceptance, some love, some integration. You'll be working with them, not to argue against their experience, but to actually meet their needs. And you know what that will create? It will create in that aspect of you, in that energetic bubble, it will create hope. And so you will ultimately arrive at the destination that you are seeking. This is actually why you sometimes tie yourselves up in knots. Deep down, you know that there's reason for hope. And so you just want to feel hopeful. But the way to get to that true, authentic expression of hope is actually to turn to the parts of you that feel hopeless. You cannot go around them. You cannot cut them out of you in order to have the remainder be hope. Because these parts of you are deeply, profoundly parts of you, and they are valuable and important. Just as important as the parts of you that already naturally feel hopeful. They are the yin and the yang, and the parts of you that most of you try to reject are the parts that actually hold the keys, hold the wisdom, hold pieces of the puzzle so that you can move forward to what it is that you want. They are not there to hinder you. They are not there to hold you back. They are there to help you see you, be there for you, love you. And when you do that, they will feel loved and accepted by you, and they will give you their piece of the puzzle. And until you build that up to a particular degree, you are going to lack trust in yourself, because you will feel like you are told you should have all the answers inside of you, but you just cannot find them. The reason, dear ones, that you cannot find them is because you are not yet open to really deeply hearing important aspects of you. And as you learn to do that for yourself more and more, you will be building up that trust, because you will be getting the gold from these parts of you that you previously decreed wrong and are now starting to understand are important, valuable, adorable parts of you that are doing nothing other than their best to support you with the current worldview that they now hold. And as you improve the communication, you will be able to have dialogue so that you hear them and meet their needs, and they can also help you to meet yours. Turning with love and acceptance to the parts of you that you have accidentally decreed wrong for the sake of your own growth is the fastest way to grow. And also the most pleasurable and least painful. We highly recommend it.
What I've been seeing when I was thinking about coming to this call was what's happened over these 2 years as well is grief of loss of our way of life, and a lot of the things that we held true for ourselves. And I've seen that I really was resisting processing all of this grief. And I feel like that's one of the things I need to turn inwards upon. And is that something that's happening for us? We need to process and integrate grief and find a new way through.
Yes, to finding a new way through, but each individual one of you has different paradigms that you are moving through in your interaction with the world. So you will find that some people would benefit from making friends with anger. Some people would benefit from making friends with hopelessness. Some people would benefit from making friends with grief. And so there is no one pronouncement that applies across the board other than you are being guided inwardly. And there are some ways of life that are being untangled from what they were before. That is true. And often when you move from something that has been familiar and therefore has felt safe, even at times when you have not liked that thing, it can be scary to let it go. And there may be a process of grief, of letting go of the old as you move forward to the new. And there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with experiencing sadness or grief or hopelessness or jealousy or any of the emotions that you sometimes want to shy away from. And so your wisdom is there. You said to us, I feel like it would be helpful for me to turn towards my grief. And the reason you said that is because there was resonance about that knowing already in you. And so know that you know. Know that you have so much wisdom, and it is delightful and fabulous that you reach out for support and have things like sessions with us. We love that. It's wonderful. But we remind you that our role when we get together in these ways, and also just when you listen to us when we are not, when you are not in front of Mater in this way, our role is to mirror back to you your own knowing, so that you feel the resonance of it. We do not wish for anything that we say to be taken by you and superimposed over the top of your own experience. Our role here is to remind you of the things that you already deep down know. And so that's all we are doing. We are co-creating with you and reminding you of your knowing and of your power. And any resistance that you feel in moving towards those previously considered bad emotions, we want to remind you that you do not need to force yourself to overcome that resistance. It may be that at times the best thing that you can do for yourself is in the moment is to bring acceptance to the fact that in this moment you are in resistance. And so if you would shift the goal from overcoming your resistance to bringing in some more acceptance, you would make the whole thing a lot more light and also a lot more manageable for yourself, because you always will have up your sleeve the ace of being able to accept you and accept the fact that in this moment acceptance is not possible. And that will bring an opening that was not there before you added that level and layer of acceptance of self. Ultimately, there are many of you that are aiming to accept the universe and to flow with it. And you are often doing that by coming down hard on yourself inside of yourself, by not accepting yourself. And we remind you that there is no way to have a relationship of acceptance with the outer world without there first being a level of acceptance of you, because your relationship with you is the basis, the filter through which you interact with everything outside of you. And so, dear ones, it is admirable and beautiful that you wish to accept the universe and accept the situations that you find yourself in. But more important than all of that is that you accept you. And once you accept you, there is an opening that is available to extend the acceptance that is already in the space to the things that you are living through. Loving and accepting you is the key to the feeling of flow that you know is lacking presently and you know is theoretically available to you. You are doing well. All of you are doing better than what you decree at present. You have a habit of noticing the places where there is not flow without celebrating all of the places that the flow exists. And so we are not at all advocates of just trying to build the positivity and ignoring the negativity or the more low vibration energies, as we have already said. But it is also important to take the time to notice and celebrate the expansion and the growth that you have already created for yourself. Not only because it is delicious to do so, although that should be reason enough, but because it actually builds the energy of it and calls more of that forward to you.
People like myself who are highly sensitive and empathetic, has it become more difficult for us to unplug from all the heaviness that's going on at the moment? Because I feel like that's something that trying to navigate as well. Like, I feel like keep getting drawn in to the energy around me, and I don't have a lot of detachment.
You do, and that's true, but we will not say that it is now harder. We will say that the challenge of doing it is building your muscle of doing it more and more and more and more. And so as you begin to implement some of the things that we have already discussed, in particular the turning inward, turning inward, turning inward, you will find that this starts to lighten and soften for you. You may have heard either Maida or ourselves say this before also. The sensitivity, the deep, profound sensitivity that some of you have is an incredible spiritual gift. But until you know how to support yourself through it, it can feel like an incredible burden. And so we encourage you to, again, turn inward, turn inward, turn inward. And ask inwardly also, how can I best support myself in this moment, and uncover the ways that work for you. There is also the return to wholeness process that you could choose to play with to do this. But ultimately, the reason that being so sensitive is such a gift is because it allows you to follow the whispers of the universe without needing the messages to get louder and louder and bigger and more dramatic. But there is also something else. When you have an interaction with somebody and you feel like you walked away picking up a chunk of energy or emotion, as you may perceive it, there is always, always, always a reason that didn't move through you. There is a reason that it got stuck in your energy field. And that reason will always be that there is a resonance between what you have picked up and you have there is a resonance between what you have picked up and what is already inside of you. Otherwise, it would not stick. And the helpful thing about this is that when you take consciousness into that space, the inner space, and work with what it is that you have picked up, when you perceive of it as an energy that you gathered from somewhere else, there is a level of detachment that comes into the experience that allows you to process it with less difficulty. But what you will find is that as you do that, you are also working with, healing and integrating the aspect of you that was already there before the interaction. And so these interactions can be a delightful way to feel lighter and lighter and lighter within yourself. We have used the analogy previously that it is as though you are taking somebody else's dirty laundry, washing it, and as you do that, your laundry becomes clean. There is a massive potential here for connection with self, for hearing self, for meeting own needs, and for understanding the gift that is your sensitivity. And as you do that more and more, you will hear the whispers more and more. Because when you are sensitive and you are overloaded with everything that you have picked up, it then also becomes harder to hear your own knowing. And so we invite you to consider clearing yourself of the things that it is that you feel that you have picked up, and knowing also that you are not just being burdened with extra work for no benefit, but know instead that you are being gifted an opportunity to clear something with a level of detachment that is not available to you always when it comes to your own wounding. That is a wonderful, helpful thing when you build the muscle of knowing how to work with it.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And I feel comforted by that. That's some action I can take. And it's a way to reframe those experiences.
We are very powerful, but even we are not capable of taking comfort and ramming it into your energy field or into your experience. So we finish by reminding you that all we are is mirrors of your own knowing, mirrors of how lovable and adorable you are. We think that you are all delicious and we adore every single one of you. And so we offer that as a reflection to you. And you'll open to that to the degree that you are ready. But please know that profoundly, we love you. We love you. We love you. Go well.
Thank you, Anne.
Oh, were they here for ages? Was that really long?
It's 12:36.
Yeah, that feels like long for them. They don't normally go that long. That was
I did
cool.
ask them more questions.
Well, they didn't leave, so you were, good. Wow, it had all the sections and stuff that kind of tied together at the end. How are you feeling? How'd you go?
Yeah, I was worried I was just sit here and bawl.
My God, you would not be the first time. That's a release. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'll probably go and have a cry.
Yeah.
No, they have a beautiful energy and they do feel really familiar. And but I can see what they're saying too. Like I tend to build energies up in my mind and think they're more wise than me, they're higher than me,
Yeah.
they know more. And I think that's why they kept saying too, they're just the mirror.
Yeah.
But some of the things they've said in podcasts and stuff, they came back. I feel like it sank in deeper.
I keep saying this to everybody. I swear to God, I genuinely listen to every podcast episode at least 5 times. And also I heard it, right? And also I edited it. Like I can't hold it all inside because it comes with levels and layers and it comes with healing. Like they're not just telling us stuff. There's energetic healing in them. So I re-listen. So, like sometimes I just play an episode before I get out of bed in the morning. Because it's like I feel like my brain has to stretch to hold it. And every time it stretches, like it comes back a little bit, not as much. Like it's like the space inside of me to hold it all gets bigger. And I swear I get a lot from it flowing through me. But I feel like I get so much just from consuming the content that it creates, like consuming the information and then the energy, because it works on us. Like literally it's healings. Like the podcast episodes have got healing in them. And so it's like you clear a level and then you listen again and you hear it differently and different bits stand out, like as your energy shifts or changes. And then I don't know how they work it, but like there's all different levels of the energy healing in them as well.
And like I was focusing on listening to them, but then staying open. And I found like their energy does change, but it's sort of, it's hard to explain. Like it built up, but it felt just really good.
You know what's magic as well? So I've been an energy healer for like a really long time, and I was doing distance healings, which is how come I understand this. But what I know is it's like I used to do it distance healings for groups, and I'd like bring the healing in and then kind of send the energetics out. And the actual healing in theory was the same, right? Because I created, but actually as it interacts with everyone's individual energy field, the experience then becomes individual. Like each person's energy field interacts with the energy of the healing in a different way. And so you might perceive it that way. Someone else might perceive it really differently. Both are true. Both are right. But it means that what looks like a group thing is actually quite individual and personal to the person. Like you'll have your memories come up about a thing. You'll have your thoughts about that other thing. You know what I mean? It's very personal, even though it's kind of going out to us all as a collective, like all of us who listen to it. But yeah, the experience is deeply personal.
I feel like that's the key too. Like more you can relax into it and soften your belly. The more you can take in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also gets easier as you repeat them.
First is always the hardest.
Or the funnest. Who knows? One or the other. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Really can I ask a question about what it feels like for you?
Yes.
So can you feel like if they're a collective, like what energy is the strongest that's coming through? Have they got like different flavors or personalities? Or does it all just feel the same?
It's hard to answer that. It's like there's a way that it feels the same. I always recognize that it's on, but I do feel like different parts like I can't identify them. They're very blended, but like you'll notice in the episodes, sometimes they'll talk really fast. Sometimes they'll talk very peacefully and really slowly. And sometimes like the energies of it can feel really different. So I found there's a particular kind of energy that comes when they're really focusing on addressing the mind. Because like when the mind is not on board for something, it's like energetics can't get beyond that, like can't get past that in some ways. And so it's almost like the energy when they're trying to soften it, not trying to soften our minds, but working their minds, helping our minds has got it. But it's not like I could say that's Bob and that's Bill. Like it's very, it's very, very blended. And sometimes what I feel inside of myself is different to what I see when I watch the recording back. Like sometimes I feel like they were really fast and they weren't that fast. And sometimes I feel like they were really slow and they were a bit slow, but not as slow as I felt. So it's like the experience of it coming through isn't necessarily what it looks like on the recording. But the energy and the vibe of it, like it's always on. So it's like it's the same but different, like it's both.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Can I ask you just one more thing? Mm-hmm. When they're talking about our energetic. So are they talking about our emotions, our thoughts, our energy, like everything?
Yes.
Right, got it.
Yeah. So your thoughts can influence your energy and your energy can influence your thoughts, but they're kind of very tied together. Like I don't think it's worth getting into the tangle of which bit is which. Like because everything is energy, right? Like this coffee cup is energy, like everything is energy. And so for some people, for me always, like I could always feel the energy of things. So speaking with the word energy made it quite easy. It can confuse people though, like if they haven't got a sense of it. So don't worry too much about that. Like thoughts, and if you're working with your thoughts and your feelings, but you'll have felt sense sometimes in your body of this or that, and you might not totally so it's all of it. Like it's all of it. But they don't worry about making sure it's like you're working on the energy. That's more like it's just you, all of you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for being brave and vulnerable.
No worries.